Good morning, and welcome to Who Am I? Who Am I? It's a little show that I have founded. I also am starting to think of it as the Who Am I project because of how it seems to collect everything around. It seems like it's a process, there's something underway. It's more than just a show. Anyway, who am I? What are we talking about? Who am I in reference to source energy? The reason we're going to talk about this is because I believe that this is where humanity is getting it a little bit off. We're so close, we're so cool, we're so good, and everything really is going way better than you'd think it is. When you hear the negative things, but some of the negative things are bad enough that even if everything else is really really wonderful, humanity at least needs to pull itself together. And I think that we're talking about this literally, pulling ourselves together. We are a fragmented single being. Your neighbor is your unknown self made visible. We're a field phenomenon. We're affecting one another's behaviors and experiences through our misalignments. We need to just understand generally a basis of one thing, and then go forth and love your religion. Even I'm not even going to take anybody away from their religion. I just want you to understand your religion. I want you to understand that we're not infallible in our religions. It's just that's our interpretation of some really miraculous, really real physical phenomenon and the realities of existence and spirit and how it all pulls together. And every religion is both really profoundly right about something, and probably, if it hasn't gotten to the point where it's adding it up to this cosmic level, like as in, so it is a question of the blind men and the elephant. And we're all blind men, and we're all looking at the same elephant. And when we get it right is when we understand that everybody else is validly looking at something too. And the idea is not to quarrel with each other about, whether you're seeing it right or whether I'm seeing it right, but to add it all together so that we can see what the frickin' elephant looks like. We are a wholeness, people, but it's a wholeness in our spirit. It doesn't have to be, and as a matter of fact, it shouldn't be in lockstep and groupthink. Us all thinking alike and dressing alike and imagining that the world is the same thing. That's not where we should be lining up. We should be lining up in spirit only. And then go forth and do your physical thing uniquely you. Uniquely you. Doesn't have to be anything like what anybody else. And we don't have to conform to each other. And it would be a nice thing if we raised children in an environment where truly we had learned how to celebrate our differences instead of tease each other for them. Ooh, he's different. We shouldn't be wearing uniforms to school. I think that's a problem. Is that true? I don't know. I actually don't have many ideas about. I don't care about it physically. I don't care what the world does. I just don't want it to devolve. I don't want it to come apart at the seams in any place where I'm in the vicinity. And I see some really big vulnerabilities with human society. I can see us as a system. I can see us as a wholeness. I can see what we're doing. We have this circulatory system, the human circulatory system, the supply chain. It's where we put goods up on a marketplace. I'm air quoting marketplace. But physically what we're doing is I'm producing something where I am, and then it goes onto the chain, onto the supply chain, and it's either a service, goods and services, or nowadays it can be a way to capture your attention. If I can get your attention, then I can monetize, because actually that makes sense to me why that would be so, because I claim to myself mostly, I haven't had much chance to claim it out loud, but I'm claiming it out loud now, that I believe that focus and attention is the literal currency of consciousness. It's the currency which makes it the currency of the universe. It boils down to the most important thing, which is why so many important things have ridden on the wave of focus and attention. Like, all media is all about focus and attention. It's all about eyes looking at something, the newspaper, or consciousness is looking at something, like the radio, television, the internet. All you have to do is get X number of hits on an internet page and you monetize. You know, that is reality expressing a truth about the energy patterns and how they flow. So who are we and what are we about? Who are we? Where did we come from? Where are we going? How did we get here? What's the object of the exercise? How do the steps of creation work? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What do I need to keep my physical body going? To keep my soul and my body together? What do I need to do? What do I need to have? Air, water, sleep, food, shelter, relationship, expression. And those 7 things, that's in the order of how quickly you will expire, how quickly you will separate from your physical form if you don't get those things. I believe now, personally, you're going to hear all day long kind of a mixture of 2 of us. There's 2 of us here talking to you. One of them is a bigger one, and I invite her in all the time, and sometimes I can lose myself, and she takes over and she speaks with great authority, and she knows a lot of things. She's still attached to me in this iteration. I mean, she's very, very wise and big, and she knows a lot of things, but I do too. But I am more fallible. So who are these 2 people that are going to be talking to you today? Well, they are these 2 people, and here comes my famous aperture slide. I've done over 100 shows and I still have the same stupid slides. I do have more things to illustrate, but this does say a basic thing. You are 2 selves, but you actually are not 2 completely separate selves. These 2 selves are one self. One is the source self. One is the physical body self. It's like one is the God self and the other one is the Son of God self. And the 2 of them together become this third thing that's very divine and precious and sacred. And you know what? As divine and precious and sacred as you hold Jesus to be, you are as special as that. We all are. Life is, the soul is, your spirit is. We are all so cool and so special. This project life matters so much. And all of us being willing to come into this space and endure, to get banged up and beat up and pushed around and confused and experience places where it just isn't as good as it should be, you know? And our job, people, our job is to notice these things passingly and then immediately start focusing on how to make it better. We are better producing machines. The betterment producing machines. Betterment producing machines. Well, we're not exactly machines, but we are betterment producing entities. Let's put it that way. So what are the steps of creation? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Step 1, life causes you to ask for more. Your hunger causes you to ask for a greater abundance. This happens across the board, by the way. When the squirrel can't find the acorn, she asks for more acorn. She asks for more oak trees to grow down the way. And nature provides this. Our asking is causing an answering vibration in the field around us. An implicate positive answering reverberation, a vibration in the field around us that is actually causing the whole thing to expand, causing more. It's how come when left to its own devices, a natural system will just become more and more and more and more. Now, it does it more on a gentle, even incremental step to step to step. And so it evolves in a particular kind of way. We've seen lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of ecosystems. There's little pockets of them all over the planet today, as well as histories of them and, all that kind of stuff. But what I'm talking about is no, that was the wrong lead in. That's how come I got lost. It's not what I'm talking about. It's human beings do it different because our minds are different. Our minds are different because somebody gave us a little illegal boost some 200,000 years ago. Now, I just believe this to be true, and I believe it. I think it actually happened, and so I'm leaving it in my operating system high up there. I really think this is what happened. Although, honestly, if it turns out that this isn't where we came from, it really doesn't matter because I'm still talking about how we are designed. I think that this is just the reason why we are this way. But the human imagination kind of has a way of jumping farther than just the tiniest incremental step forward. We can see farther down the road. We can also see farther in back of us, which is a direction our inner being never looks. You are the one who gets melancholy, maudlin, sad, and sentimental over things gone past. I think that you could say that the reason that your inner being doesn't look back is because she has brought all loving, connected, meaningful value from back is with her right here and now. She doesn't have to look back because all of the information of back is with her right here and now. Why look back? And there's no reason to ever be melancholy or sad because honestly, if you are so busy dancing with creation, dancing with making more and more and more and more, and look at how beautiful it could be this way and look how wonderful it could be that way. If you're involved in that kind of energy, why would you ever look back? You don't have time, you don't have bandwidth to do that. And besides that, all the information of back is now, and it's all fine, and so you're never regretting or anything, but you do that. And to a point, to a very fine, small, short point, all of what you do, even in the negative zone, has tremendous value. the more that you are willing to fall into the depths of negative emotion for just a second, the more gold you can mine on the other side of it. It's like the negative emotion that you feel is you registering a whole bunch of things in our here and now that could be in better alignment than they are. But if you don't look at them, if you don't feel that hit of negative emotion, then your system can't process the improvement, can't radiate the improvement. You have to feel the feeling. You have to ask. But you don't have to do it for very long. You can pivot immediately. Got it. See what that is. I get it. Okay. Well, what should we do about that? So don't beat yourself up for your negative emotions. They're there for a reason. Someone has given us this power of negative emotion, but our power is not in our acting from our negative emotion. It is from our ability to act from our positive emotion. But our negative emotion gives us some information about what would be better, clarifying what we don't want so that we more clearly understand what we do want. And I'll tell you what we do want. We want a society where somehow we get to a place. Wouldn't this be great? This is pie in the sky utopia stuff. Just listen to me for a second. Because actually I'm not in a resistant place. I'm not thinking about physical blockages to this kind of vision for our future. Oh, we can't do it because nobody's ever gonna, I barely have 24 people who listen to one of my videos, and I'm all excited because I didn't give it to 24 people. That means somebody else is listening to this. I don't know who it is, but it's so exciting. And every day now, somebody picks it up. Somebody's listening, and I'm so excited. I'm doing nothing for search engine optimization. I'm actually not trying to get any viewers. I'm trying to get better at my message. And at some point, when I'm ready, when I really intend, when I'm like, okay, let's try to get some viewers now, I will get viewers. Or because it's out there, and because I do this every day, and because I am getting better, and because the law of attraction actually is a thing, at some point I'll get viewers whether I like them or not, as long as I keep the window open and I keep, practicing my sermons here, talking about who am I? Who are we? Who are we? What is our biotechnology? How does it function? Why do we mess up in this world? How is there's some particular patterns that we keep playing out, and they're really interesting patterns. The ones I'm talking about, you can see them in cults and autocracies. It's sort of the same thing. What plays out with cult leaders and tyrants is sort of the same thing. It doesn't have to be ideologically driven, which with cults it almost always is. I mean, the cult leader, I suppose, he's always a true believer in something wacky that involves his stuff. So L. Ron Hubbard may have intentionally founded a religion because his intention was he wanted to make money. But somewhere down the line, if you really think about, so I just watched a show about Scientology. It's called Going Clear, and it jived with things in my mind. And I remember back in the 80s, I read the book Dianetics and scratched my head and pondered what they were trying to say. I could kind of see it. I sort of saw from my perspective what I thought they meant. But, I was certainly never inspired to go join the group and start, buying the clear levels. Nothing like that. But they had a show on Netflix. Just came out this year, very interesting, called Going Clear, about Scientology. And it's quite an interesting angle. It's a perfect angle from my perspective, because that's exactly the angle that I look at the phenomenon of cults and tyrants, and it's why I was so fascinated with the phenomenon of the Nazis back in the 30s. And it's not just that Nazi phenomenon, because we still have that, and that's very interesting. It's a spirit. It's a kind of a spirit, and it's generated in a particular way in the mind when your mind and when your physical mind is not lined up with your source properly. You get this crossing of energy thing. You get crosswise of yourself, because you are two forward moving energy streams. Well, one of them is absolutely forward moving, forward looking, and connected to all things real. Which one of, and the other one is just you and your physical mind, and what you think you know, and what you think is true, and what you think is going on. Which one of these two are you going to believe? Well, the physical one actually can get it right, can get on it, actually, can be really good, can be really, really smart, can be incredibly wise, can know lots and lots of things. But if it is going to know what's real, it needs to line up with the one that already knows what's real, who is in alignment, pure alignment with what's real, is knowing what's real and looking at what you want. What are you looking at? Are you all fascinated with, and it's not to say that there's nothing wrong with that. I was fascinated for a minute, morbidly fascinated, not just from an academic kind of standpoint. I'd read the books, the historical fiction books set in the time period, and feel in my soul the shivers of what it would have felt like to live through that experience. As I read books like Fall from Grace and Eye of the Needle and The Eagle Has Landed, and lots of other ones too. That their titles don't come to mind. But then I read textbooks too, Hitler's Willing Executioners, and watched lots of masterpiece theater, and now I've watched lots and lots. Foyle's War, love Foyle's War. Oh, what a good one. And World on Fire, and Island at War, and all kinds of good stuff. Wonderful, wonderful pieces that show you a good sense of what that felt like to live through that time period. And my father fought in World War II, but he fought in the Pacific. And in my later years, I have become a little more interested in, not psychologically so much interested in I haven't been interested in the psychology of that section of the war. The Nazis just fascinated me. And they still do. And this year, 2 amazing shows have come out. I think one came out this year. If it didn't come out this year, I'm just watching it this year. It seems like I've seen it coming up on History Channel or something, the episodes of it for a while. So I don't know what year it came out. That Hitler's Inner Circle. And then there's another one about... It is about Hitler, but I can't remember what it's called. And it's a new one from 2024, and it also is on Netflix. Really, really good stuff. Really, really good stuff. It exemplifies what has captured me in the question about that, because there's something playing out. There's a pattern. There's a pattern there, and you got to spot what the pattern is and what's the source of this pattern, what's creating this pattern, so we can stop it, because we don't want it playing out. And there's a kind of, in a way, it's playing out right now in America. Now, right now, it's Trumpism. But it could play out more seriously with more of an ideologue to the cause, to the right-wing cause. It could happen again. Now, I'm not going to get all dark and dramatic about it, because I'm going to tell you lots and lots of reasons why it isn't going to happen the same way that it happened before. For one thing, there is way more information to even phenomenon like me right now is a physical symptom, an example of why it's not playing out like it did before. There is so much more awareness. I'm sitting here on a YouTube channel broadcasting to, just a few people, but potentially millions if I wanted to try to get this out. But I'm not trying to get it out because I don't want it to get slick and it could get illustrated better. It really could get a little bit slicker because I am pretty rough here. But because of that, only the law of attraction is what's going to put this out. People's interest, whether I say something that resonates, whether I'm speaking something meaningful that helps somebody in their life. As I explained to you, so we're going to hit this from two angles. There's two very distinct angles to this. And the bit about the being genetically modified, that's kind of like a side note. I don't really get into it because I don't know who did it. It also ties into the fact that I think that if you look around the planet, there is plenty of physical evidence laying around that we may have been visited by extraterrestrials. There's plenty of physical evidence that you could interpret that way if you were inclined to do so. Now, the conventional paradigm doesn't really want to see the story change because we've already got all the natural history museums already have the story one way. You really don't want to say anything different about that. It would be too hard. Also, actually, that may not be as big of a problem, but the textbooks are a big problem. The people that wrote the textbooks that are getting, money for the textbooks forevermore, and they are being sold at exorbitant prices and forced to be bought at universities and stuff. Those people, they don't want the information to change. You think that that's nothing. It doesn't really matter to me. That part of it doesn't matter to me. Our design is our design, wherever it came from. But it makes sense to me that we're having trouble with this design because it was sprung on us. And then nobody left a user's manual. This is how you work, folks. This is how you work. Deal with it. You are these two selves. I'm pointing at my slide again. The two selves. The one is your source self. This is you. This is you as your continuum. So this is who you always are. This is the continuum of you. This is the energy stream of you. This is the quantum field of you. This is the connected to everything else. This is you as part of the Almighty moving forward as you. That's your source side. It is you. It is relentlessly positive. That is why you cannot go negative without feeling uncomfortable about it. You feel uncomfortable about it because there is an aspect of you that you are now like rubbing the wrong way. You've gotten crosswise of it, and it has an energy consequence to it and a field phenomenon consequence to it. Ripples that ripple outwards and start affecting all of us in chaotic or coherent ways. Your coherence also affects the rest of the field, but your chaos is also affecting the field, people. When you get out of alignment, it starts to jangle those around you, which is why we're all up in each other's business, because we can't get away from each other. So quit trying to get away from each other and start understanding who we are and how we relate to one another and how we really could move into a peaceful future. a peaceful, abundant future where there was plenty for everybody. How would that work? Well, we are abundance creating machines. So how is it possible that we create an abundance of lack? How is it that we are creating this lack instead of abundance? Well, I believe, this is my thesis statement, or is it a thesis statement or a thesis paragraph or a thesis 2-hour program every day? I think that our problems are being caused by us not knowing how this works, how the energies work, and it's going to get really serious. And it does get really, and it's going to get really serious here as soon as we have this problem. It's the second half of my thesis about. So I think that our woes are being caused by not knowing who we are, not knowing how we work in reference to source energy, not knowing how the field works, not knowing how to create abundance with the field, not knowing how to get into alignment. If we would get into alignment with our source would lead us to the answer, lead us to the ideas, the phenomenon of ideas dropping into our head. That is a manifestation. The idea dropping into your head might be a consequence of you achieving a higher frequency. Ooh, I just got a little happier, a little more satisfied, a little more grateful, a little more eager and interested, and boom, there's the good idea. It drops into your head because you achieved a certain frequency. It's the most important thing you can do. Get into alignment with yourself. I never finished the steps of creation. Step 1, life causes you to ask. Step 2, source answers. Source answers, source answers, source answers. Your answer is given. The solution is present in the quantum field as soon as you have asked for more. In actual fact, the beasts of the field, as they ask for more, they don't have to know, they don't have to, in their thinking conscious mind, know what they are asking for. For God to know what they have asked for. So step 1, you ask. Step 2, source answers. Step 3, this is your job again. Step 1 was your job. Step 3 is your job. Step 2 is not your job. It happens. The field is doing it. Without you doing it is step 2. Source is doing its job. Source has answered you. Step 3, you have to get into a mode of believing there's an answer, expecting there to be an answer, looking around for the answer. It's not going to necessarily come in any. It's abundance equals your ability to take the next step you want to take. And / need to take too, because your wants and your needs need to be in alignment with one another. You need to want what you need, and you need to need what you want. Need what you want. I don't know if it has to go that way. You need to want what you need. Want the things that you need, and then your life will continue in its physicality for you to live another day, for you to understand another day, for you to want what you need. Don't want crazy things. However, you want what you want. And you can dream big. You'll get it a lot easier if it's in alignment with reality. And I'm not talking about objective, hard reality. I'm talking about the reality of who you really are that you may not even know about. What you really want. Your inner being knows what you really want, and you may not know what you really want, even though you're the one who declared it every step of the way. You maybe walked away from the higher thing you were asking for and started looking around too much at what we physically have. I'm getting confusing. Let's go back to the steps. Step 1, you ask. Step 2, source answers. Step 3, you've got to get into the receiving mode or you won't hear the answer. You're getting the answer. It's being broadcast to you at all times. But if you're still all angry about whatever it is that is the problem, you just got bit on the ass one more time, bit on the balls one more time by a black widow spider, and by gosh, you hate these outhouses. You know, back in the day, that was the norm. Everybody used outhouses, and now we live in a day where there are billions of people on the planet who have the luxury of using flush toilets in rooms that have no black widow spiders, who are that have lighted hot and cold running water. It's wonderful. It's fantastic. The world is getting better, but with the solving of one problem, another one arises. Like, now we've pooped in all the water. What are we going to do with it? Well, now you have to figure out how to clean it again, how to filter the water back to cleanliness. We are systems. We are systems, and our systems just need to be in alignment with the systems of the natural ecosystem around us, which equals God, the Almighty, everything that isn't human. You know, the biofield, the web that supports our physical selves. We need to take care of it. We need to garden Eden again. And so the second part of my my presentation involves energy source. So we're talking about source energy. Well, now we're going to talk about energy source. And this gets into the world of a little bit of revolution, and that's where it kind of gets a little bit exciting too, because you're on the edge of something cutting edge here. This is cool. It's also dramatic and exciting, and it's also really terrible, and it can make you mad if you thought about it. But I don't think that what we should do is focus on hunting down the culprits of our situation and bringing them to justice, punishing them for their misdeeds. I don't think it should be anything like that. We should not be doing that. What we should be doing is understanding ourselves and understand that all of these crimes that we're talking about, they're all just human beings did it. We did it. It's all us. It is all us. But I am only responsible personally for me in a way, because I can only call the shots for me. But I'll tell you what, I'm not going to go chasing down the culprits. I am going to spend my time focusing on, hey, let's get us all together. Let's turn a culprit into a cooperative component to our actual desires, which is ultimately, so this is it, sustainability, people. Sustainability is the ultimate goal. We have now banged around in this situation long enough that, hey, we didn't realize that it was the goal, because it wasn't even that long ago that we didn't realize that it was going to be a problem. Sustainability, you know, that we were actually going to get to the place where we're 8 billion, you know, looking down the barrel at 9, 10 billion in our lifetime, you know, if something doesn't happen. And we've got worldwide poverty now. We've got billions of people in lack that shouldn't be in lack. We are still committing the 6th mass extinction. We are still in process of turning Mother Earth into a cinder through our burning of fossil fuels. And we don't need to be doing this. Did you know we don't need to be doing this? And so this comes to my links list. My links list, where I put into my description of my video. I know that's not where it goes, but this is where I put it. My links list, I've trimmed it down a little bit. I need to make a new. I actually, in the ones that are here, they only go down to living in the future's past. Now, I don't put the other. If you want to look at an earlier video, you can see all of the rest of them. Paul Levy's articles list and the paper. Actually, I think I put the paper. I put the paper in this. I took out the links list to Paul Levy's articles and the Whirling Dervishes. I took that out. But they're still good. If you want to go back and find that, an older one. Anyway, Lost Century and How to Reclaim It. This is a documentary documenting over a century of over-unity devices being ruthlessly suppressed. We could have been incrementally getting off of fossil fuels all along, incrementally, as we learned to, but now what's going to happen is it's going to happen all at once. As soon as people realize, oh, we don't have to be burning fossil fuels. What is this horse shit that we have been, what is this bill of goods we have been sold? And the only reason we don't know it is because we are not in a habit of adding all the information, each of us as individuals, and then thinking for ourselves anymore. We'd have more people out there thinking for ourselves who would have realized this already. There is a few people who have realized it and they have brought it forth, and I have gotten wind of this, and it seems important to me because all of the things that I have mourned over, well, with the exception of the way they eat and treat dogs in Korea, that one is not based on this, but everything, drowning polar bears and orphan elephants and 6 mass extinction in general. 6 mass extinction is not on the ground, just like if we as human beings were to go extinct. 8 billion human beings on the planet going extinct is not going to look pretty. It's going to be 8 billion stories of tragedy. Now, I'm not going to get overly dramatic because it is all about your focus and attention. So that's the setup, people. We live in a glorious, glorious world. In a universe, in a body, in a matrix that is designed to give us what we want if we will line up with it. If we will emanate the frequency of it, the system will give you the impulses, the ideas, and the inspiration to the steps to take that you'll end up in a place you'll be like, oh my gosh, this is what I was asking for. That's how it's designed. But you got to understand its design or it will beat you up. So anyway, The Lost Century and How to Reclaim It, that's YouTube version, so it's free. Go watch it. Then we have Quantum Revolution. It's the 12-part series that Nassim Haramein did. It's over on Gaia. This is the first episode, The Science of a Unified Universe. And or the physics of a unified universe. I'm not sure exactly what that is, but that's the first episode. The other 11 episodes you can find on Gaia for sure, and you can do a free trial if you want to. Let's see, The Connected Universe, that was a movie made in 2016 right after Nassim published his paper in 2012. Which unified the quantum and cosmological universes through mathematics. It said, mathematically, look at how this relates to this. You take a quanta, you take a Planck at the quantum density, which is a very, 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 very high density. If you're looking at the Planck field and that proton, very, very, very high density. You're looking at the Planck density. It's 10 to the 93, and the cosmological density, the density of the outside universe at the universal scale, it's really, really, really not dense. There's very little. I mean, if you add up all of the matter in the universe, even if you add the dark matter, it's still not. Actually, the dark matter makes it a lot more. But if you just add up the matter that you can see, it's really, really not dense. Not dense at all. It's 10 to the minus 30. There's 127 degrees of magnitude difference in those densities. It's huge. They can't understand how the quantum world relates to to the cosmological world, but they definitely relate to one another because one is the building blocks that makes up the other. So it turns out, I believe, if you take one of those Plancks at that density and blow it up to the size of the universe, you actually get the right number. Which begs you to think that the universe is actually a Planck from another universe that has been flung off through Hawking radiation because it's a black hole, because it's all black holes all the way up and all the way down. And so that 12 episode series will tell you all about spinning space-time and the fullness of space and the black hole structure and the Big Bang, the model of the Big Bang and all that stuff. Really interesting how it all connects. It all connects. It's a connected universe. And then I threw in Living in the Future's Past because that one shows us who we are as... I'm really surprised this did not change. Huh. It shows us how we are a superorganism. We are a superorganism. We have our supply chain. We have the focus of our attention. We have our waste products. We have our, what all do we have? We are a superorganism. And as a superorganism, we have all the parts of a single organism, just in a bigger way. And we need to address ourselves as that. We are a wholeness. And when we, as individuals, don't see ourselves as the allness that we are, wow, we're struggling against... We are a single body that's fighting itself. It's crazy. One of the problems that you can see with Hitler was his philosophy going into it was wrong, obviously. All of his primary assumptions and the things that he had put at the top of his iOS were incorrect. And which is why when he played that out, it went so dastardly wrong for him. You know, and up until... It also explains why up until the very end, he just could not see that he was gonna lose. He couldn't believe that he could lose because he was locked into this, you know, master race idea, you know, superiority, you know, if we're the superior ones, then of course we're going to win. And he had these ideas about war being what you had to do in order to thrive, when actually, if you're involved in war, the things that he was involved in were not the secrets to thriving. It was the secrets to driving your society seriously into a ditch, but fast. You know, he was wrong about... He was out of alignment with the biofield. He was out of alignment with the rest of humanity. He had an us versus them hard line mentality going on, and it isn't an us versus them paradigm, by the way. It is not an us versus them paradigm. It is not survival of the fittest. It's survival of the fit. It is a cooperative paradigm. It is not it's competitive to a point. You have to be competitive up to the point of fit, but you don't have to be the fittest. You just have to be fit enough to engage with the machinery, you know? That's all. To jump into the dance, to the game, to the flow. You know, it's not so vicious. This idea of kill or be killed and all of that kind of stuff, it's wrong. It's wrong. Those at the bottom compete. Those at the top cooperate, collaborate, you know? But then there's another thing we do. We have a tendency to organize into larger beings. And an autocracy is kind of us organizing into our larger being. But it always comes to light when it's a dark being, you know? But we do this all the time as beings of light, and we don't even notice it. You know, our church, just our regular conventional churches, or our family, organizations or our bowling teams or our, whatever that kind of stuff. We organize that way all the time. What happens in an autocracy? It's all so interesting. I should find. I wonder if any of that stuff can be found on YouTube or links to. I don't know. So who am I? Who am I, and what are we going to do about it? So here's the paper. This paper was published last September. This is the latest physics, mathematically unifying quantum and cosmological understanding where mass is coming from, how mass is organizing in the quantum field, how it's this spin coming into the origin of mass and the nature of gravity. This is going to get our society plugged directly into source energy and free of gravity. And I want you to just imagine for a minute, forget about reality, forget about what we got going on right now. It's going. Now, maybe it'll be a while before it goes. 10 years, 20 years. I wish they would quit so madly updating our current airport systems as though that's hardline the system we're going to be. It's not going to be that way. It's not going to be that way. We're not going to do... okay, so imagine for a minute. When we understand gravity, we're free of gravity. Which means now when we build our vehicles, in the vehicle, you put a little device, a little singularity that you point the nose of the vehicle towards, and it just goes that direction, regardless of... it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'm telling you, this mathematical understanding is going to bring the technology of the future, of the true 21st century and 22nd century and beyond, plugged into source energy and free of gravity. It's going to happen. Right now, we're being held in a current paradigm by people who are having a good time on trillions of dollars worth of economic activity coming from the burning of fossil fuels because they control the oil fields. They have whether or not those oil fields are owned by the citizens of the United States or not, there are certain people that own the rights to drill. They have the licenses to drill. They have the okay. They have the know-how. They control the flow of energy. And because of that, they are controlling our civilization. And we need to take back control of it. Now, that links list shows in that first thing, the one about the lost century and how to reclaim it, it talks about over-unity devices, which are devices that put out more energy than they take to run. Did you know that these things are possible? There is no reason whatsoever why we should be doing things the way we do them now, except for it facilitated an organization of people working for their money, proving their value. It's also advancing technology and civilization to a point. But, we're going to get to a point where we're going to be able to take it a little easier, and we should be a little less... if we would take it a little more easily down the stream, because life is but a dream. I thought about this the other day. It struck me as so profound. It was like, oh my God, no wonder they say this. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. The reason what that song is saying is, take it easy, chill out, let go of the oars. Let go of the oars. Quit trying to make it happen. Your vortex of creation has been created. You have created it through all of your lives. But even in this life, you have created I know why Abraham says her words the way she says them, because it's tricky to describe this. You have declared all of the things that you care about, everything that you want, and all that you prefer. You have declared it in all of the lives you have ever lived, even unto this one have you done so. And all of those declarations are in a pure spot. It's all of what you want is in one spot. It's your vortex of creation. You don't have to accomplish your vortex. You need to, in your physical self, stay out of the way so that your vortex can naturally flow into itself. It's naturally just trying to happen. It is the universe evolving and unfolding. It's the you feeling the growth and motion and movement of the great allness as it evolves. It's really, really cool. Get out of the way. Quit trying to make it happen. Your physical mind has no way of knowing how complex and beautiful it can unfold. Now, your physical mind can be a cooperative component to the unfolding, but it's not the one who's doing it. God is doing it. What do I mean by that? The whole universe is alive and moving and growing, and there's a pattern in place, and things are expanding and evolving to the good. The arc of it is long, but it bends towards everything, towards freedom, towards justice, towards joy, towards efficiency, towards clarity. The arc may be long. The only reason the arc is long is because the human mind gets in the way because it thinks it's in control. It's a secondary organ, but it thinks it's in control. Whoops, that's the wrong place. It thinks it's running the show. It is not running the show. Source is running the show. What is source? Source is spin, by the way, people. It is spin. And why is it spin? Because that's, I'll tell you why. Because as matter emerges across the event horizon of the 0-point energy field, it is spinning. It is spinning. It is baked into the cake. The spin is fundamental. It's part of the whole thing. It's the dark matter and dark energy that we're not adding in. This fundamental spin that is all part of the... I got all kinds of things to show, and sometimes I get more mathematically nerdy, and sometimes I get more on the psychological side of it. And people mostly probably relate to the psychological stuff because this all relates to that, because the psychological stuff relates to the meaning of your negative emotions. Quit taking your negative emotions so seriously. Your negative emotions are not you. It is you turned backwards. Stop it. Don't have a high tolerance for negative emotion. Have a very, very low tolerance for negative emotions so that you can spot it the instant you start going into one. Because I promise you, when you spot it the instant you go into it, you will recognize that what took you to that negative emotion was a thought. A specific thought took you there. And that thought is not in alignment with who you really are, knows to be true about our situation. The truth about our situation is that life is good. You are good. We are good. Even the bad guys are good. It's like we're all on a stage. You know, Shakespeare had that one right, but he said it very poetically. About us I'm not even sure how he said it. He said something else about we are such stuff as dreams are made of. and our little life is ended with a sleep. That's good too. But anyway, he's right. He's right. It is a stage. And this kind of relates to an idea Sue Morter has. Dr. Sue Morter. She's another guru. She's got a big YouTube, a big internet presence, large website. She does healings, and she does all kinds. She's good. She's good. She's really interesting, actually. Her story, how she came to her practice, and how she came to her story is an interesting story. But her idea she calls it the bus stop conversation. And she imagines this agreement that we have with one another before we come in. Okay, I'll be the bad guy this time, all right? Because you want to have a transcendent experience of forgiveness. That means something egregious has to happen to you. Okay, I'll be the one. I'll be the bad guy this time. I'll be the autocrat. I'll be the abusive boyfriend or whatever. And you hug and you kiss and you know yourselves for who you are. And then you come into this dimension, and she has this description of, you go splat and your consciousness kind of scatters. It takes you a while to gather yourself back up, and you can Greg Braden mentions an impetus. He calls it, I'm not sure how he does, it's a prime directive, but I'm not sure if he calls it a prime directive or if he has a different expression for prime directive, but it's a primary impulse to wholeness, to find your wholeness. Because when you come into this density, into this body, into this life, you kind of go splat, and your ingredients are all over the place, and you have to pull them towards you. And who are you? You are the love. And so what are you paying attention to? Well, how do you spot yourself? It's all of the things that you loved. You have to pull them back to yourself, and then you can see the wholeness of who you are. Anyway, it's just kind of a mishy-mashy, everybody's ideas all added up in my head. I'm like, oh yeah, and then there's Eckhart Tolle's pain body, and look at how that plays out. Oh my gosh, it's so interesting. It's all of us. We're all blind men looking at the elephant. Instead of arguing with your neighbors about what it is, you should be adding it up, knowing that your neighbor is your unknown self made visible, and there is only one of us here. And we are going to have to deal with that if we want to be sustainable for the future. We're going to have to quit gumming up the works to get capital to flow our way, you know? All of us are forced to capitalize in this system. And how crazy is it? However, it really isn't as bad as you think, because if you would line up with your inner being, and that's back to this picture, you and you, you and you. Remember I told you there would be two of us talking to you here today? And sometimes it's more her, and sometimes it's more me, and sometimes it's more us, you know? But there's two of us here. One of them is my inner being, my broader perspective, and the other one is my smaller self, which actually is contained in the broader perspective. I exist in my own greater context. They're both me. One is a little more general because she is a bigger self, but I am a very specific self. And so my smaller self has to be the one calling the shots, has to be the one making the choices. So how do I do that? The way you do it correctly is you line up with your inner being and then do it. How do you know if you've done that? Well, what frequency are you on? Good question, isn't it? What frequency are you on? How can you tell? Well, this is your emotional guidance scale that will tell you what frequency you're on. And know this, there are five rules that you can't get away from in this world. The five. This is a download from Bashar. Short and sweet. The 5 aspects of existence that you cannot change. Sorry, I know I sound different because I'm moving around. The first one is, you exist. There is nothing you can do to change that. In other words, you have a permanent front row seat to reality, people, to existence. You are consciousness. Your mind's eye is open forever and ever and ever. Now, right now, you are in a physical body of a human being, by the way, which is a very, very special creature. An extremely special creature, both specially special and specially destructive. And the difference between those is knowing who we are. That's why I do my show. Who am I? Number 1, you exist. There's nothing you can do to change that. Number 2, everything is here and now. There is nothing you can do to change that. Everything is here and now. Number 3, the one is all, and the all are one. We are holographic. The universe is holographic. All the information is contained everywhere. In frequencies, because on a frequency, on an interference pattern, on a frequency, you can hold an infinite amount of information can be held on an infinitely small point. So, in other words, the information of the whole universe can be contained in the Planck field of a single proton, and undoubtedly from another dimension could be all of the information of the universe in a Planck. Could do that. A frequency as short as a Planck can hold all the information. Number 4, what you put out is what you get back. It has to do with frequencies, because you are a transmitter and a receiver. You are not a solid object banging around this world. You are a transmitting and receiving device, and the universe, this interactive, glorious universe, is hearing you and responding to you through all kinds of ways. Everything from thoughts falling into your head, impulses to rendezvous with this and that, your timing, your how you are playing with the rest of the field. What you put out is what you get back. There's nothing you can do to change that. And the last one is, everything changes except for the laws. There is nothing you can do to change that. You cannot hold the physically manifested form. You cannot hold it in the same form. Neither would you want to. Because it's winking in and out fresh every Planck instant. It winks completely out and then comes completely back in. Absolutely fresh. The Buddhists have been trying to say that for a long time. Physics can now explain what that looks like. What the Planck field is doing. What this vacuum fluctuations, these Planck oscillators, as they virtually go in and out across. And a proton is a vortex of this ether of Planck's spinning in a black hole of, spell that hole W-H-O-L-E, and you really got it. You're starting to catch on. You're like, oh my God, look, it's all fractal reflections of the wholeness everywhere. And there is only me and reflections of me. And I am the whole thing. And you can do that. You can identify all the way to that point. You're capable of doing that in your mind. You can do it. You can see, and when you do it, when you identify different ways, you can feel it. You can see it. You can know it. You're like, oh my God, why don't they let us do that? Why don't they teach us who we are? Somebody has wanted to keep us hobbled. They have wanted to keep us not knowing who we are. Because frankly, we need a fullness of knowing who we are. You need to know who you are and how cool you are and how special you are and how cool the whole world is and how cool everybody else is and how cool we are as a wholeness. Because if you're just a piece of this information can be dangerous. For instance, I'll tell you what makes a cult leader or a tyrant or whatever dangerous. They lock into a sureness about themselves, and they lock into a they see their own worth. Is this true? This is not exactly true. This is how I usually put it. If you've been taught superstitious, not exactly full scientific truths about the nature of the universe, and then you stumble into universal consciousness, which is a place, by the way, that we all have a ticket into. And the ticket into universal consciousness is it runs on a particular frequency. So you have to get into this very non-resistant kind of high vibrational frequency, and you can practice it by just like putting your own thoughts together and being expansive. It's kind of what I think I'm doing, but I'm not sure. I think I'm raising my frequency when I do this. You raise your frequency to a certain point, you open your mind, you let everything like just flow, and you can stumble into this place where you're like, oh wow, look at. If you stumble into universal consciousness when you don't understand what it is, you think you're the only one there. You start getting delusions of grandeur. Delusions of grandeur. Now, the grandeur is true, but delusions come when you think you're the only one there, therefore you're special and everybody else isn't. You know? That is a big problem because there's only one of us here. And God wants us all to succeed, because when we all succeed, that means the whole field is thriving. And of course, that's what God's all about. It's the point of win, 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 win. The cooperative point, the high point of most cooperative components and highest level of satisfaction and, greatest level of abundance. That's the point that God is standing at and calling us all to. And your inner being is doing that for you. Your inner being is your own little slice of the divine, your own little sliver aspect, but it gives you access to the whole thing. So don't underestimate, even though it's a sliver. I say it's a sliver so that you don't get all, full of yourself and think that, you're God and everybody else isn't. We all are. We all are. I know that some people find that a threatening concept. My own flesh and blood used to quarrel with me quite heavily on this point, and I wouldn't quarrel with anybody about any point. If you're in the throes of some other belief and you can't see me, then you're not there yet. I mean, you're somewhere else. I don't even mean to say, yeah, I'm way down the road farther than you. I don't even mean to imply that. We're all coming to. I wouldn't for a second want everybody to be like me. I'm me. Let me be like me. Let you be you. That's the great part of this system. We got a great system here. Let's understand it. Let's work with it. Let's find its sustainable future. Let's get off fossil fuels, first of all. Over Unity devices are going to begin the job, as people are going to be able to, in gentle ways, just, run their own farm equipment without having to buy into the fossil fuel paradigm. They can just have their little over Unity device, plug their stuff in and to start running. Watch the movie if you don't know what I'm talking about. And then the big kahuna, the Holy Grail. It's not cold fusion, people. it's source energy. And the reason it's source energy is because source energy is everywhere. You don't have to have a grid for source energy. It's not like you have a big power plant plugged into source energy and now with wires we're going to transfer it everywhere around the world. It's not like that. It will be small devices, each one of them plugged into source energy, which is everywhere. And then all you have to do with your devices, with your personal devices, is tune them into your personal source device and run them. It'll just run. That's how it will work. Until then, we can incrementally start feeding literal energy into our system through over-unity devices that we need to unleash upon the world. But I do understand, in the name of national security, many of these things have been, well, all of them. Name of national security, others have been squashed by the oil industry themselves. They buy somebody's idea and then they just shelve it. Or somebody goes to the patent office and tries to, get a device patented. The patent office steals it from you and deep sixes it. Sometimes, perhaps, along with the inventor, if they don't go quietly. Now, I'm not accusing the patent office of having wet works operators, but, somehow there's a system of suppression that has been at times bloody and brutal when it needed to be. And these devices, does anybody see any of these devices around? Not only that, if you bring this subject up to anybody who has a conventional education, they'll think you're crazy, because what they think that you're saying is this is a device that is creating energy out of thin air. But it isn't creating energy out of thin air. The idea of you can't, in a closed system, you can't create energy that wasn't already there. That's not what these things are doing. There is no place where there isn't almost infinite energy everywhere. You aren't creating energy that wasn't already there, and there is no such thing as a closed system. So you can have an over-unity device. Sometimes they're devices that lock onto a frequency, a steady state frequency going on out there, and that there are devices that have done this. There's one on the Thrive 2 movie. If you haven't seen that, there's a lot of stuff you might roll your eyes at because they try to get really practical and they get culpritizing. They start pointing at who the culprits are. But I don't think that's the way. There's only one of us here, and we as one have to survive. We need to communicate with ourselves freely and efficiently. We would like to move about the world freely and efficiently. We love to do that. We need to distribute goods amongst ourselves. We love to do that. It's part of who we are. It's part of how we survive, too. We need to, let's see, what else do we want to do? All these things we want to do. All of these things that we are one being. We are one being, and there is really big places where we all come together. We all actually, as individuals, need to stay free ultimately in the way we move. We may get locked into a sustainable pattern, and that's fine. But it can't be rigidly ordered from without. It can only be source impulsed from within. And so each individual has to stay free to move on those impulses that only they are getting from their position on the grid. We're all getting our impulses, and they're all coming from source, and source is everywhere, by the way. There's not one place over there where source is, because what source is, I'll tell you what it is. Source is this Planck field jiggling together, interacting with itself. It's this jiggle, as all of the frequencies touch each other and communicate their information across all the scales through this interference pattern of a cosmic jiggle. It's the holographic jiggle of space-time. And it's exchanging all of its informations up and down the scales. And there's screening mechanisms and all kinds of things to help so that you aren't bombarded with all of it. So you see what's relevant and near, in the proper order so that it's coherent and not just chaotic blast of over information, It's really cool. Do you know how a conventional hologram is made? You have a laser beam, you split it in two, you redirect one with mirrors to a point, the other one scans an object and gets redirected to the same point. The two meet up again and they interfere with each other, and through the interference pattern, all the information of the object that was scanned is scattered across the whole field. All of the information is scattered in a wholeness kind of thing. So now all of it is everywhere, and so you take that hologram, you cut it in half, shine a laser beam through it, and all the information's still there. Theoretically, you could cut it in half, and then in half, and then in half, and then in half, and then in half. You'd kind of lose some of the resolution, but all of the information is still there. It's this, because it jiggled together, it shared its information, and all the Planck field across all of the universe, and it's all touching. It's the quanta. It's the quantum field that you hear so much about. It's this divine matrix that binds us together, that makes us inextricably one. So we don't have to go lockstep in groupthink to be one. We just are. We just are. Just know that. Now be yourself. Be yourself. Line up with your source self and be yourself. How do you do that? Well, get happy. How do you quit being conditionally happy? How do you stop being conditionally happy? Because that's easy to do. Something good happens, you're conditionally happy. I got a new car today, I'm happy, I have just ate a good dinner, I'm happy, But now, this meal isn't so good, now I'm pissed. Because you got to be careful. If you're hanging your happiness on conditions, that's fine when the conditions are good. And, you may be milking the shit out of some condition or other. But the only reason you're doing it is because you're conditional. And you turn and look at a condition that you don't like. Now, are you good at withdrawing your attention? Because that's what you need to do. At least withdraw your attention and attempt to go in with a different thought, with a softer thought, with a better thought. Because Source can look at anything. So it's not like Source cannot look at the bad things that are happening on planet Earth. And what are the bad things? I'm just going to say them real quick and real big. Sixth mass extinction. Although we could talk about what those three words actually mean. Horrible. 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 I don't even want to go there. Because I want to live in a world where we know that there is only one of us here. And so we give the non-human world way more credit. And we see what they know in their eyes, and we explore ourselves and consciousness through getting to know all of the non-human creatures on the planet. Learning elephant culture. We're learning elephant culture now because we orphan baby elephants, and then they don't have a culture. And then they don't know how to live polite, non-destructive lives. They're lost without their culture. And when we murder their elders for their ivory, we destroy their culture. And then we learn about their culture that way. We're like, oh, whoops, they had a culture. Oops. My bad. I don't want to be in that paradigm anymore. I want to find our way forward to our freedom, our joy. Did you know that we are supposed to be happy? That our mechanism is designed for us to be generally content? And, in times past, perhaps we were, but we live in a world where many of us don't feel that anymore. I'm pretty content. But part of it is because I have found a voice here. I have found my culture has brought to me a technology allowing me to sit in this room with my OBS studio and do my little recordings, and I feel heard. I feel like I have expressed myself. I have a relationship to the cosmos. I have everything I need to thrive. In the olden days, I would have had to have convinced somebody to put me on the radio, the one radio station or whatever, and then I would have had to suck up to the sponsors, and I couldn't, talk bad about pharmaceuticals or, the oil industry or whatever. I would have had to kowtow to the vested interests that own the radio station, that, the one broadcasting place. The reason that the newspapers and stuff don't really matter, that one person owning a bunch of stuff doesn't matter so much anymore, is because the internet has really added so many more voices. That's where all the voices are going to come from, Me being able to get online and just say whatever I want. Such a blessing. Oh my gosh. I'm very excited about life, excited about the future. We really do. Every one of us has an inner being that is leading us to the future we're really looking for. We are working on it. It is getting better. It is getting better. The arc is bending towards better. It may seem long sometimes, but it's only because of our resistance. Resistance is futile. And it's not futile for the reasons that the Daleks would try to tell you. Because, we have to resist and it won't work. And you say, no, it will work. It is not futile. The fact is you need to go with the flow. The universe is... I have a t-shirt that says, breathe. The universe is doing everything else. And in a way, what we need to do a little bit more is chill out. Chill out and don't be so quick to jump into action. You want inspired action. Anything else is actually only going to contribute to the cacophony that you are objecting to in the first place. The reason you want to jump into action is because you see things that need to be made better. And the spirit with which you jump into it is everything. So don't be so quick to jump into action. Make sure that your action is aligned. Make sure that your spirit is aligned first. Only act from positive emotion. From your negative emotion, just sit with it, be with it, ponder who you really are, get yourself back into alignment with don't believe your negative self. It's not you. It's the dark side of you. It's the anti-you. It's the anti-Christ. It's demons. It's Shiva energy. It's, there's all kinds of ways you could discuss what that energy is, but it's a destructive energy. And it's not a coherent energy, it's a chaotic one. So if you aren't in alignment, your energy becomes chaotic. If you are in alignment, you become very coherent. And your clarity gets good, and you start flowing with the rest of the motion of all the world around you. And it starts feeling good, and you're okay. You're okay. I'm just a little cell in this body, and I may be a blood cell, or I may be a liver cell, or I may be a kidney cell, or whatever it is I am, but I'm doing fine. And I'm going to die, but that's all right because I'm part of a bigger body, and that body will go on. And that body is part of a spirit of a body that's bigger, that's going to go on. And you are a continuum, and you are connected to all things. And you are pure positive energy. You really are your source side. And the other side is you. And when you are in alignment with who you truly are, you feel good. And when you get crosswise of it, you don't feel so good. It's all up to you. Some of the glorious messages of this message is that when you understand your own configuration, you will understand that from whatever position you find yourself in right at this moment, and you may not be in a good position. You may be in prison. You may be wherever. You may be in some kind of trouble. But it doesn't matter. Wherever you are on the grid, on the board, you can move from where you are in the direction, at least, of where you want to go. You can move that direction, and that moving that direction will feel good. And no one can stop you from this because the movement doesn't happen on the outside where they can stop you. It happens on the inside when you line your two selves up. And once you line your two selves up, you're going to feel good no matter where you are. You're going to feel an understanding of where you are and how you fit, both in a good way, and you're going to see the mistakes you made. They're going to become very clear, but not from a judgmental point of view, more from a, oh, I see what I did. That kind of a perspective. No one can keep you from lining up with your insides. It's an inside job, and no one can stop you. This is goes to a concept, a pet concept that at someday I will elucidate more. Might even write a book on it. Called divine autonomy. It has to do with the power that you have to line up, and then the power that is yours once you line up. And it's not power over others, and it's not power to conquer the world. It's not that kind of power. It's power to feel all the things you want to feel. To feel your freedom, to feel joy, power to feel... And it's not just that. It's power to be safe. When you line up with your inner self, you can quit spending all of your consciousness evaluating all physical threats in your environment, in your physical environment, in order to make sure that you keep yourself safe from all of them. In actual fact, your inner being knows where all the threats are and knows what you want out of life. And if you would learn to follow her direction, you can follow what you want out of life, and she will guide you unconsciously past all of the dangers. Sometimes the best way to be safe from a danger is to be unconscious of it and trustingly let your inner being take care of getting you past it. Instead of staring at the person who is a potential pedophile or whatever, or murderer, instead of staring at his murderousness and saying, I know you, you son of a bitch, and you better not touch me or my family, or I'll glue you to the wall. Instead, see him as a poor, as an aspect of humanness. Maybe he's homeless, or maybe he's, raving or whatever, and you see him with compassion and you understand who he is. You reach out and give him a muffin or something, and then you follow your inner being's guidance on this. I'm not telling you go out and give crazy people muffins. I'm not saying that. If your inner being inspires you to do that, then do it. But I'm just saying lock in with your inner being and then do what she tells you to do. And she's not going to be warning you from a negative standpoint. She's going to be exciting your mind with interesting things about what you could do or invent or write or organize or whatever. That's what I'm saying. Follow your passion, follow your joy, follow the energy that is pulling you to your desire. Your desire is your inner being. Your beliefs are your physical side. And if your beliefs say your physical mind has translated that desire. It's already your physical mind. The desire itself came from your source. It was an impetus of feeling. But your physical mind might immediately translate that into a something. And then now it believes or doesn't believe whether or not you can have whatever thing it just translated your desire into. Do you see where you start to get it mixed up? You've got to find a clear path somehow, some way between that impulse of your desire and your beliefs about it. You can have anything you want, but you need to get clear. Maybe what you think you want isn't what you want, but it's a good place to start, you know? Start there. Be open, be flexible, be willing to shift both your beliefs and your desires. You've got to get them in the same place, and where they end up also needs to be positive. You can't just get them in the same place and it's in this negative place and then you lock it in and then you go for it. I think that might be what some of the Nazis did, you know? You gotta stay in a positive place. Your inner being is guiding you from pure positive energy. Never gonna guide you from a place of danger or threat or fear or blame or guilt or shame. Now, the Nazis went into plenty of those places. So it's easy to tell whether you're in dangerous territory or not. If you're in a joyful, happy place, I promise you, you're not a Nazi. And I don't really mean to disparage Nazis, but my gosh, I think that's if there is one group that you can safely stereotype and pejoratize, could be Nazis. But if Nazis ever listen to this, I don't want them to turn me off. There really is only one of us here, and the way I get rid of Nazism is not by getting rid of you, Nazi, but by turning you into a human being, into a friend, into a wholeness. Help you understand who you are and why you feel the way you feel. Disconnect just a little bit from the physicality of what you're looking at in order to reconnect to physicality in a way more aligned way in how physicality really is playing out. Because all of this that I'm talking about, even though I talk about it in terms of emotions and spirits and creation and words that sound like whatever, I'm really trying to attack this from a more physically aligned way than perhaps we do. So let's go back to the paper. The origin of... No, that's the wrong paper. That's the wrong one. This one. The origin of mass and the nature of gravity. And what the structure of the universe actually is. What is this source energy, and who am I in this source energy equation? So much to say. And yet I am speechless. Who am I? Who am I? And where am I going? Why am I here? How did I get here? What's the object of the exercise? Well, I'll tell you what the object of the exercise is now. It's sustainability. We've got to find a place that we can keep doing it forever. But we want to be sustained in alignment forever. We don't want to be locked into, it's like we don't, maybe North Korea can stay locked into that whatever forever. I actually don't think it can. Now that autocracy has lived into a couple of generations, which is new, and it's not a good sign. And the reason that it's able to do that is because of the way it has harnessed the threat of nuclear power and unleashing Holocaust upon the earth. You know, you leave us alone or we will blow you up. And they've got a weird story going on in there and stuff too. But what we're looking, they aren't sustainable. We're looking for sustainability. We're looking for humanity making it to the 22nd century, which means we've got 75 years to go to even make it there. And according to some calculations, now I don't want to keep saying this forever and ever and ever, because if things change, I would like to reflect that. But Bruce Lipton seems to think that if we keep fishing in the way that we fish, that there will be negligible fish in the ocean by the year, now I don't know why he would say 2048 instead of just rounding it up to 2050. I don't know. It actually makes it sound less credible to me rather than more credible. But the general idea, I'm sure, is still well taken. We are deeply underway in the sixth mass extinction, which means that we are not in the business of creating abundance, which a healthy ecosystem always is. Becoming more, becoming more, becoming more. Maybe incrementally, but it's always the arc is more. And right now, we are on a way less arc. Sixth mass extinction. How many species of this and that and the other thing go extinct every single day because of human activity, because we grind something else up? And so the diversity of the planet is way reduced. It may still look green because, you know, crabgrass and the weeds, they move in. But where we need to be, since we are in the midst of an abundance creation paradigm, we should be, if we're in a place where all is healthy, we should be increasing the biofield, not decreasing it. So sixth mass extinction, growing deserts, garbage island, global warming, world poverty, persistent war, human suffering of all kinds, all come from this. Who am I? We don't know who we are. And the fact of the matter is that on one level, there is only one of us here. And we need to get in sync with ourselves. We need to get into alignment with ourselves, with the biofield of the planet and the morphogenetic field of humanity itself. We need to get it into alignment, or we will not see the 22nd century. And I'll tell you, 8 billion people going extinct is not going to be a pretty sight. It's going to be a collection of 8 billion tragic, tragic, tragic stories. And I, for one, don't want to have anything to do with that. And it's not just going to be all or nothing. It's going to be incrementally tragic, tragic, tragic stories. Or can we pull it back and start creating joyful, joyful, joyful stories? Anyway, to that service, I will come back tomorrow. And we will talk about this again and again and again and again. Let's get off fossil fuels. Let's get off fossil fuels. We can do it. We can know who we are. We can line up with source energy and let source energy help us line up with one another. We are moving into the time of the Spirit and away from the time of the law. We're not there yet. We're in transition. We're in that moment where the frequency has changed. And so the pattern on the metal plate has changed. It's moving, it's morphing from one pattern to another, and it looks like chaos in the moment, but it isn't. We are morphing from the time of the law to the time of the Spirit. It's like an analogy to the Old Testament and the New Testament. It is. And the Spirit is us understanding who we are as source energy, and then us lining up with source energy, and then lining up with one another. That's the answer, people. It's the only answer. It may seem impractical, so you're never going to get everybody to do that. Well, you don't have to get everybody to do it all at once, and you don't decree it from the outside. You do it yourself, and then that inspires others. Your coherence or your chaos is affecting your neighbor. Abraham says, those who are in alignment have more power than millions who have not. And the power that they have is to inspire others to their alignment. And that's all we need. An aligned world, a generally aligned world, where generally human beings understand what our negative emotions really are. That we are positive beings. Each and every one of us are positive beings. Even the nasty ones of us are. Even the monsters amongst us are. And their problem is misalignment and misunderstanding. And they need healing from that. They don't need punishment, because the punishment that we give only propagates more of the demons. So anyway, I've made it past an hour and 47 minutes, and I think that that's long enough for today. I've had a very good time. I may come back and do a little something later, do a recording later, or just work on my slides. In any case, I very much enjoyed the morning. I really hope you have a blessed and wonderful day. I will see you back here tomorrow, where we will begin our oral meditation. Who am I? Who am I as source energy, and how does that information get us and me from where we are right now to where we want to go? How does it do that? We'll talk about it again tomorrow. Until then, I love you so much. I appreciate your ears and your heart and your mind and your soul listening to me. Whoever you are, I appreciate you. I love you. I wish you well. I bid you peace. And most of all, may the source be with you.